The financial views and opinions expressed by the host and guests on this program do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of 1077 The Bronx, Rider University, or Certified Wealth Management and Investment. The material discussed is not designed to provide the listeners with individual financial, legal, or tax advice.
Show me the money!
Where's my money, man?
Here comes the money! Here we go.
It's time to grow your bank as 1077 The Bronx presents Master Your Finances with Kurtis Baker, a certified financial planner professional with certified wealth management and investment. Kurt and his team of financial guests will help you turn those singles into seas of green and plan your financial future accordingly. Now here's your money managing host for the hour, Kurtis Baker.
Do you know the common challenges that local businesses owners face? Are you aware of the strategies used by forward-thinking business leaders to solve problems and make better decisions? Ted Simpson, President and Certified TAB Facilitator, is here to help you develop your own personal vision with simple worksheets. With over 30 years of experience working with hundreds of business leaders and their teams to bring new products to market, exploit competitive advantage, strengthen employee engagement, and ultimately improve their bottom line, he'll give you the peace of mind that you are making informed decisions and that your business efforts are aligned with your best future self. Wow, that's awesome, man. I know I've been a business owner my whole life pretty much. I worked for somebody else for 13 months, and I know one of the things that's very interesting to me is as a business owner, you're especially the owner, it's like it's lonely at the top kind of thing, right? So you're kind of by yourself, which is interesting. So I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but and this is kind of important for business owners to have ways to help educate themselves and things like that. So if I guess, first of all, explain to us what is TAB and what does that mean? I know that my mother used to drink it. I'm sure that's not what it is since that went away. But explain to us what that is and why it's important and how it came to be and then how you came to be connected with it.
Sure. So that was a lot of words, right? And there was like a lot of big words that as you were reading it, like for me, working with business owners comes down to two things, because I'm a business owner myself. So it's
right.
It's am I successful at what I want to be successful at? Like am I good at it? And the second thing is, am I enjoying it? Right. So for me, it starts with that, and So then you ask me, like, how does TAB play into this, like with business owners? So a couple different ways. Like, first of all, we do business coaching. And so what's business coaching? It's helping business owners develop plans and realize their plans. Again, to like be successful for what they want to be successful with. And that's an important part of it. And it has a secondary part too, though, is we team up business owners into what we call peer advisory boards. So picture this, like if you're a big business, you might have a board of directors, right? Or you might not even have a board of directors, but you have a very big leadership team. You have somebody that's really good at marketing. You have somebody that's really good at sales. You have somebody that takes care of your IT. You have somebody that is great with people, the HR person. Well, if you're a business that doesn't have all those resources, like you said, you find yourself like sitting by yourself trying to come up with these plans. And some are great at it, of course you are, but we find it much more effective if you're able to team up with other people, like-minded people, forward-thinking people that might have experienced the same things that you're working on, right? So picture this in a world. Hey, I'm a business person, and it's time for me to update my computer system. So I can go and shop around, which I would do. But wouldn't it be great to talk to a couple different other business owners that might have just done the same thing and benefit from their research? So that's what it's all about. I call it like the 1-2 punch. Why is that important? Well, one, you need to have a plan. And it's good to have a thought partner for that aspect of your work. But then, so many people have plans and they sit on the shelf, So part of what this peer advisory board does is it holds you accountable, just like a board of directors, right? You share your plans, right? That's all part of it. But also you benefit from that board's wisdom. But at the end of the day, you're accountable, So it's kind of like a long-winded answer to what you asked me, Kurtis.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, no, accountability I think is huge. I mean, I know when I go to the gym, I need instructors telling me what to do or a coach telling me what to do because they hold me accountable, right? They say, do so many reps at such and such, and you go, okay, well, if I'm at home, I might do it, right? If I'm in front of somebody like keeping track of what I'm doing, they're like, got to push you a little harder. Well, I guess I can see how this is kind of the same thing, especially when you're around other like-minded people. And one thing that I've always seen is that the teacher always becomes the beneficiary, the best student, right? So they tend to. I know that, when you teach somebody, when you go out in front of somebody and teach them, the questions that they ask and the responses that you have to give them makes you think. So you actually learn a lot by going through this. So I'm taking your example of like the computer guy, right? So, you're changing your computer system. And so when you have to go back through and kind of explain to somebody what you're doing, why you did it, you're actually walking right back through that process yourself. And they're going to ask you questions, right, that maybe you didn't even think of, right? So you're like, oh, shoot. You're right. I really should have added that in. Maybe we do need to do that over here. So you could actually improve that system. Maybe you just install by tweaking it a little bit through the questions that your peer is going to ask you because their situation might be a little bit different. Like their setup, how their employees are set up. Maybe they're not remote. Maybe you're more remote. Who knows what the case is, right? But I've found that when you start doing this with other people, you end up you get they get these questions that you're like, where'd that come from, right? You didn't think of it. And now you're going to have to respond to that. You're like, oh, wow, that actually might apply to my situation. I didn't really think of that before.
It's a great point. And it's one of those things that when people get into TAB, the organization, that they think it's a lot of times, like typically it's like for me, like three things I look for, like in my world. I want to like the person. But my problems are like everybody, So that's part of it.
You haven't narrowed it down very much then. Okay.
But no, it's true. Like there's certain things because it's a pretty intimate relationship. And the second thing is I have to be able to help them. Some people have some things. Like I'll give you an example. I had somebody call me the other week, and their issue was they weren't getting paid, right? And so that, okay, like let's talk a little bit. And it turns out they were working for a subcontractor who was working for the city of New York, so that's one of those things that like that's really hard. You
don't know the mayor, you can't just call him up and say, hey, dude.
Right. But if they wanted a plan to kind of diversify their customer base, right, that would be something we would work on.
Right.
And then the third thing would be they really need to want to help themselves. Right. And so you hit on this, that they'll come into these TAB meetings thinking like it's solely for them for a certain purpose. What we do is well, I'll tell you, like here's how a meeting would work, right? So a flow would be like this. They come into the meeting and they have an issue, something that month is like on their mind. It could be personal, even just something that they're working to tackle, right? So I would kick off the meeting and we kind of do like a check-in. Right. So it's important to make sure that everybody's checked in and that you're fully present for the meeting. Kind of like, how's your business going? How you doing personally? So then
it's interesting. You throw the personal side in there, which obviously is very important. I just think that's interesting you bring that up because I find that personally to be very important, frankly.
Right. Because you might have some things on your mind.
Absolutely.
Right. And you're there, but you're not.
Right.
So we want to get that off the table right away. And then I'll go around the room and we'll go in order of who got there first, right? That's pretty scientific. So
okay.
So then,
first come, first serve, right?
And so you'll present an issue, right? And so the way we present the issue is like a brief description of the issue, and it's important to me because, and then I'd be interested to know what you've done about it so far. And then what is it that you're looking for here? Like we're here together. What kind of help do you want? Then we'll go around the room, and this is the hard part for me. Like everybody gets to ask a question, right? Because you want to make sure that you understand their point of view, right? Because you just introduced to this issue, so I'm going around and people can ask clarifying questions. Now, what happens a lot of times because people really want to help, they'll be like, disguise advice in a clarifying question and be like, wow, have you tried this? So actually what I want them to do the first go around is just to make sure everybody understands the point of view. And then we'll go around the room and people based on their experience or whatever will give some advice, right? And the job of the person that's asking for advice at this point is just to be, to take in the advice. Like in marketing, we say like input is a gift. And it's just take that input, absorb it. There's no right or wrong at this point. You're just absorbing things. And then I'll take some notes too. And then I'll ask that person like, hey, what are you going to do about it? Right? You got some really good input here. Tell me one thing that you're going to do between the next time we meet. How are you going to take this input? And then we'll record it. I've never had a time where somebody didn't get really good input that they wanted to use, right? Sometimes it was just clarifying what they already knew, but it was really good to get some other thoughts. Sometimes it was just prioritizing things. But the point is, like, we'll note it, and you say it out loud, your intention. And then what happens, it goes to the next person. So now the next person becomes the one seeking advice, and I just sought advice, and now I'm giving advice. So that's what we do. We go around that way. At the end of the meeting, we kind of do a wrap up. What was the best takeaway for everybody? Just remind everybody what they're going to do. And then between that meeting and the next, because the thing that can go wrong, right, is like right, you've been to these things where like this was a great idea, and then I get back to the office and life happens, right? And so now life is happening, and so what this is a little different is now I'm going to visit you, right? Like sometimes I say ghosts of Christmas past, present, future. Like so now I'm ghost Christmas present. I'll come in, remind you that this is what we said we were going to do. It was important to you, and then we'll like collaborate on what you're going to do about it. But again, remember, I also have this overall plan that I'm working with you on. So I'm keeping you on track of your current plan, collectively. But then we're making sure that we're slotting this in because it was important to you. And then at the next meeting, right, you're fully cycled, right? Again, remember I said the check-in, how you doing? Well, part of that check-in is like, hey, here's how I'm doing with last month's input, and then the team's like, right, awesome. Good job. Now, there'll be times, right? Like once or twice, like, hey, look, I didn't get to it.
Right.
But so you get a fun pass. But if you miss that once or twice, like, it's not so much like the team's not going to let you go. They'll be like, hey, you know what? You said you're going to do this. I got up in the morning to make something happen. Let's move it along.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. We're going to go definitely over that again. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Master Your Finances. We'll be right back.
Yeah, you've got loads of money, but it's all about how you manage it. Let's get back to learning how to grow your green with Kurt Baker of Certified Wealth Management and Investment, only on Master Your Finances.
Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finance. I'm here with Ted Simpson of the TAB facilitator. And we were kind of going through one of the meetings, and one thing that I noticed that you talked about is the first go around when the questions are being asked, you want to make sure they don't give any kind of advice, which I think is interesting because that's one of the things that I've always been trying to focus on personally is listening before you try to respond. And so I think that's great how you get the whole group to really do the listening to the person that has the issue, let that kind of vet out. And then you go into the response side, right? So I think that's a great point that you made there. Is that many times we'll jump in. I know my wife's accused me of this. Is you jump to the answer before the question is finished, and a lot of times you're going to be wrong on your answer because you didn't get the whole question, right? You didn't really understand what the whole question was, and so I'm definitely guilty of that. So I definitely I connected with that big time. And then the other part was that giving advice and getting advice. Sometimes the benefit, as I said, is that sometimes you benefit just from giving the advice to somebody. You actually learn a little bit about what you did because now they give you feedback on what your thought process is. And then the accountability, which is to me is key because I think we've all been to these workshops, these seminars and things and got all kinds of great information. One of the things I have a problem with is you come out with almost too much information because you got to break it into what are the actual steps I can really take, which piece is the most important. Here's what I'm going to do next. Now, maybe there's 10 things I need to do, but I got to start with 1 or 2 or 3, right? I can't do all 10 at once. So you got to figure out which one's the best one to go. So you're kind of really focusing on what's going to actually get you there and which are the most important things. That's what I kind of saw. And then you wrap it up. And then so this one part you said, you're coming around. Do you literally knock on the door and say, "Hey, dude, I'm here. What are you doing? Let me check you out." Or you calling them on the phone? I want to make sure I clarify that because then you're holding them accountable. So so I left the meeting. I got my plan. Here's a couple things I promise I'm gonna do before we meet again. And then Ted comes in. He's gonna be right on your shoulder, sitting there right on the shoulder, saying, "Hey," whispering in your ear, "Is this getting done or what?"
Great. I'll take a step back for a second. Like, so why would somebody join this in the first place?
Right.
Like, so, like you would join something like this. Typically people have like a couple different things that you'd be wrestling with, right? Like if you think about business, you're running a business, you have people. People could be an issue, right? Like it could be your employees, it could be your partners, like, so I see both of those. It could be money, it could be like your cash flow I talked a little bit about. It could be about your sales growth. It could be like, I don't have a plan. It could be like, I'm like, I do the same thing every year and I'm looking for some new thinking. Or it could also be like, I don't have a North Star. Like I'm here, I'm doing my thing, but I'm not sure where I'm going, right? And then the one that is, people don't think as much about is like exiting the business, and what we don't want to see there is like, I want to exit like 3 months from now, right? Because that's
a little
like,
quick,
right? Like so it means you didn't like really think through what you really want for your business, and you didn't prepare your business for that. So
right.
So okay, then we got that, and then you say, okay, yeah, I really want to work on one of these things. And so, like I said, it's a two-part. One is the one-to-one working on plans together, right? And that, so what you said, now I left that meeting and I have my things. Well, I've already got that arranged, so we have monthly, the rhythm is this. There's a monthly one-to-one where we're sitting down and we're working on plans going forward, but also we're working on the inputs that we got from the board meeting. Then once a month too, we have the board meeting. Now, like we talked about, the board meeting is all about being accountable. But the other thing that's so important about that board meeting is that it's not at your place, right? Like, and we safeguard that because you got to be away from your business, because now you're not working in your business. Now you're working on your business. It's a really big distinction, and it's something that a lot of times you just need to experience it before you truly understand it, So that's really key and critical, I'll say. And then throughout the month, right? Like, so this has been going on for a long time. So there's a lot of tools that a lot of big companies use to plan, like there's a lot of tools like that I used to work with in my big company days, about like developing strategy, holding people accountable, and building a company values and cultures, right? Like, examples of that. So we give them access to those tools, and part of my job is to make sure that I'm facilitating the use of those tools in a way that's helping them think more strategically and helping them drive to an end, like to a means, to goals that are important to them.
So yes, you have a lot happening here. So what are typically the sizes? I mean, we've got companies that are everything from somebody just started their company 6 months ago to somebody that's been maybe running a large, construction firm, maybe has a couple hundred employees running around all over the place doing things. So does this fit like all types of businesses, or is there kind of a sweet spot of where this kind of fits in as far as the size business? Because you've got a lot of like good advice here, and it sounds like what you're doing is you're kind of upscaling this into like the large company infrastructure, but maybe for a little bit smaller entities, right? Yeah,
exactly. So thanks for asking that question. So let's say a typical business that would come into TAP, anywhere between like $500,000 to up to like 20. There's some that might be $30-40 million. So there's a big range there, and they might have from one employee to 25 to 40 employees, right? That would be on the larger side. And you asked about like, did they just start off in business or they've been in business a while? Typically I'd want them to have been in business for a couple years, right? Because you got to get some bruises, some experience. So if you're going to sit on a board, right, I want to make sure that you're able to give like feedback based on some experience, because it's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. The other thing about that is I find that the issues that you run into change as you mature as a business, right? So, when you're starting out off your business, right, the most important thing is I need some customers, right? So I got to grow. I got to grow.
Revenue.
Grow, right. now I start to grow, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have any time for anything. I'm so busy.
Right.
Like I can't do this. I need to do that. And so this time management becomes something, that's important to them. Then they start to get a little bigger, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I have more people. And I'm not sure that they're all being directed and all their oars are going in the same direction, right? So now I'm really interested in my culture and my values and making sure that that's squared away. And then I even get bigger, and it's like, all right, now what about my systems and am I organized correctly? Am I getting the most out of everybody? So, hey, that's not all the issues, but let's just say like that's examples of what some business owners might be confronted with as they get larger.
Yeah, one of the things I picked out of here right away was that as you're growing and you start getting very successful, you end up doing a lot more of the tasks you shouldn't be doing. So now you have to hand that off. Now you have to hand that off, right? You have to assign that to others and then be able to give them responsibility and take accountability for that. And so that sounds like that might be a big part. Well, how do you train those people and how do you get those things off your plate so you can actually work on your business, right? Because you can become overwhelmed and not be necessarily working efficiently, and you actually don't enjoy it anymore. And I think you pointed out one of the main factors, are you enjoying your business? And I think one of the things that happens to business owners, if they're not careful, is you can go from really loving what you're doing and why you actually started this business to really becoming a little bit overwhelmed, right? And I think this is where some instruction outside people looking at what you're doing, because you're kind of in the fight, so to speak. And if somebody's standing on the side of the ring saying, hey, man, you really shouldn't be doing that because that's not the highest and best use of your time, you can actually hand that off to somebody, or you can hand it off to another company or do something with it, right? Are these the kind of things that you'll talk about? So
Totally. That is probably the two things are the hardest, I'd say, for folks is for a lot, right? It's one is that first hire, like how should I organize that? What am I looking for? And the other is now am I doing the right things, And I'll give you like an example for large companies, right? This is how large companies work. Like growing up in a large company, what they do is you start off as an individual contributor and you learn like your skill sets and whatever function you're in, and then you become a manager, and then you're working through other people, and then what they do is they give you too much. Like you cannot do it. You won't be able to do it. And so what it does is it forces somebody in that role to learn how to delegate. It's just a law of survival. You'll never be able to do it. And that's what big companies are testing your leadership. And it's not like you think, like my experience in life, and that's part of why I got into this, is I did it all wrong. I got into started work, and I'm like, wow, I'm pretty smart. I can just outthink people. And then wow, I'll just outwork people, And then you can't, and then you just get frustrated. And so for me, I was like, wow, wouldn't it be great if I figured this out ahead of time is how to create an inspiring vision and help people understand how to get there. Then that becomes interesting for people. And now I'm getting a team together. We're moving in the same direction. And to your point, delegation is one of the top things, having your team aligned to what you want to get, understand what you want, have the capabilities to do it, and you having the peace of mind that will get done. That's big. It's really big for us.
Absolutely. We're going to take another quick break. You're listening to Master Your Finances. We'll be right back.
Load of money.
If you want to learn how to make and manage that kind of money, turn the volume up as we get back to Master Your Finances with Kurt Baker of Certified Wealth Management and Investment.
Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finance. I'm here with Ted Simpson, and we're talking about getting I think the big part I'm taking away from this is allowing people to work more on. I mean, you hear this term all the time, work on your business instead of in your business, right? But if you're a business owner, to you, that's kind of a fantasy. Look, I get up in the morning, I'm living, breathing my business 24/7. It's being successful, especially when it becomes successful. You're just overwhelmed because you have all this business coming in. You're trying to process it, trying to get it out. You're trying to serve your clients. You're trying to do everything you can do. And so it's hard to step back from that and say, well, wait a minute. If I step back, of course, you feel like the revenue is going to go down, right? Because I'm not there to do everything. But if you do it correctly, you step back, you actually can increase the revenue because now you're actually delegating, you're actually becoming more efficient, and now you can actually spend more time on the visionary side of it. And then one of the things I heard early on when we were talking is that one is you just sit down and you talk about the plan. And I think that's key because a lot of us get we get into this process where we say, this is the way we've always done it. It works. Let's just keep doing it. But there may be better ways. If you've had your business, especially 5, 10, 15, 20 years, a lot has happened. A lot has happened out there that can maybe improve it. You may not have existed when you started the business. You may have never thought of it. So how do you start this planning process, and how do you walk people through this? Let's start from the very beginning. Let's say I come in, I want to join Tab. I join Tab. What happens now? What do we do now to get started?
Cool, thanks. So it's this, right? So you came in, right, because there was something on your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts off with this understanding yourself. And we really don't spend a lot of time on that as people, right? Really not enough time, right? And so our coaching style is more about like helping you find your North Star, right? It's not one of these like I'm going to come and say, how many emails did you do this week? How many like why did you do that many emails? It's more about what do you want to do? What's important to you? But it has to start off with where are you now, So the first thing you would do with my organization is some benchmarking on your business, right? So your business itself, let's look at that. You have different parts of your business. Like you're trying to get people to know about your company. You're trying to get people to buy from your company. You got to get people to pay you. You got to like make sure you pay your employees. You got to get good employees. All those type of things, right? So we start off with a business diagnostics, and so this is the first eye opener for people because everybody says, well, my business is different. My business is different. Well, right. It is different. Like 15% of your business is different. Like if you're a contractor and you do landscaping, well, yeah, like you need to understand how to do good landscape, right? But you're still going to get money from people. You still got to sell to people. You need to pay people. You got to do your computer systems, all that kind of stuff. People have those things. So 85% of your business is pretty much the same. Now where strategy gets in is like, which one of those things is really important to you, right? So we start with a diagnostics. So it's okay. We'll take a look at marketing, for instance. Like it's a real pragmatic approach. Like, okay, I have a marketing plan. Check, good. I have a marketing plan and it's based on some kind of external analysis. Check, you make it to the next level. My marketing plan is external analysis and takes into account my internal capabilities. Check, you go to that one. My marketing plan does all those things and my people actually know what I'm trying to do and it's embedded in their plans. You get where I'm coming from? So it's like these different levels of like, you have to answer yes to the first one, yes to the second one. And if you get it to level 4, let's just say, I think you're pretty good at that.
Right.
Like we'd say it's pretty good. And because this organization that I'm in, Tab, has about 4,000 members around the world, I can take your business type. Like, so if you're a contractor, I can compare that to other contractors in our organization and say, hey, you know what? You're scaling pretty well here versus the others, or this is something you might want to improve on, right? So it starts off with that, and there's about 9 different elements, and we do this benchmarking, and then we decide what is important to you, right? Because you're not going to be great at everything, right? So because there's only a few of you, so that's like kind of a business diagnostics, but I would argue even more importantly, we start with you, right? And so we do a personality assessment, right? And what that is kind of like how the world kind of perceives you. Right. So that's one element of it. Like, are you the person that stands up when there's a problem? Are you the person that is always wanting to tell people about what happened this weekend?
No, do I analyze myself? I mean, how do you, or do you talk to my friends about this? I'm a little nervous about that. So it's like,
it's so weird, Kurtis.
Yeah, how do you get me to admit what I really am like?
So it's a 20-minute test, right?
All right.
Like it's 20 minutes, and you just like my suggestion to them is always don't take more than 20 minutes. Just take 20 minutes and answer how you feel. Right.
Okay.
Right? And it's going to take a look at your personality based on like how people see you, like how you handle problems, how you influence people, how you react to your environment. These type of things kind of give people a feel of what you're all about. I'll give you just one example, just so you can see what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Like the first thing about How do you handle problems? If you're the person that like stands up and say, we got to fix this, we got to like, well, that means that you're pretty much high on the scale of that one. And it's important to you to know, because that type of person, when things go wrong, might get a little grumpy with the others.
Just a little. Just a little.
Right.
What's wrong with everybody out there? I know what the answer is. Fix it. Come on, do it.
So that's that self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know, and the crazy
is everybody honest about? I'm just curious about how much honesty you get out of this, because I know not everybody is that self-aware about necessarily where they are in that type of a situation. They're like, oh no, I'm collaborating. I'm telling them what I want to do, and they go do it.
So,
right? That's not really collaborating.
No. And that's the thing, is they're not.
Right.
So this is a lot of times that's like that's a blind spot for them, right?
Right.
Like, it's just one example, right? So
Okay.
so the way the world sees you a lot of times is a blind spot, and right, there's a whole bunch of studies about that. That's how that whole like self-awareness, emotional intelligence side of things, you know. So do you uncover some of that within this test? I mean, are you uncovering some of these maybe I'm missing? Like because I'm analyzing. I'm just curious. I'm analyzing myself a little bit, right? Yeah.
So are you kind of reading between the lines, saying, well, based on how you answered all this, I think maybe you need to work on this area? Most of the time, well, again, it's thanks, because it's what you do with it. Like most of the time, like first is you have some people like, I don't want to take that test. Yeah, sure. And then they're like, oh, nobody's going to, no one really understands me after that. And so what I do is I go over it with them. Okay. Like, I've never had a time where they haven't been like, oh my gosh, how do you know that about me, you know? Right. Okay. What I have asked them to do is, you know what? Give it to your spouse and let your spouse look at it. Oh, there you go. There's an honest response. That's what I really want to know. Like how do they You get the real story now. Right? You know? There you go. So that's kind of like that's not cheating. That's like cheating. For me, it's the ones that are reluctant. I'm like, you know what? Yeah. You're reluctant. You're gonna, and if they say no, then we rip the whole thing up. But I've never had to do that. Good. But then, like to your point, is like, okay, now based on that, that's how the world sees me. But also in that same test is what motivates me. That's important, and that's super important. And I'll just give you like just one example, because there's about 7 different factors. But one would be learning. Right, like how I learn, right, and some people are want to learn everything. Like that's like I have a daughter like that. When you go to a museum with her, she reads every single sign. Like you can't get through it because she's really fascinated. That could take a long time, right? But there's people like that, right? Oh, sure. Like, people like me, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Go, but if I need to learn it for work, I will. So that's like one thing. There's other things about like how you know like. Are you motivated by giving back to the world, or are you motivated by more personal motivations? You know, like for myself, and why those things are pretty important for a business person is it's tapping into your values, like what's important to you, like because remember we're trying to get to your North Star, right? Right. And the second thing is how do you use this to get better? Right. And so one of the ways you use that tool to get better is we outline a couple things like, okay, based on your profile, there's always pros and cons. There's no right answer, right? There's pros and cons for everything. This type of profile, you're going to have an issue with, you're going to want to talk to everybody, you know? So we should come up with a strategy of how to limit that. You know, you might close your door, we might do things. So everything we do is about improving, you know? So that would be, A, we talked about your business diagnostics. B, we talked about understanding yourself. So a little bit of what I'm taking away from this is like, if I learn more about myself, because don't they say like hire people to do the things that you don't want to or don't like to do, right? Or can't do as well. And so wouldn't this help a little bit with saying, okay, when I'm out looking for maybe a new employee or a new person to kind of help me a little bit, or even looking at my existing employee base, maybe I can better optimize them by understanding better what I actually do well and the things that I probably shouldn't be doing. Does that, understanding my own personality, like where I kind of am and what's driving me, would that kind of get me to focus a little bit more on what I should actually be doing every day? Totally. Okay. You're getting it. I'm listening, man. I'm trying to listen. I'm reading the museum placards. That's what I'm doing. I'll say on that point, like what we'll say a lot of times is, what do you love to do? What are you good at? And how important is that to your business? That's another way I would frame what you were just saying. Okay. Awesome, man. We're going to take another quick break. You're listening to Master Your Finances. We'll be right back.
Do you want to prevent this from happening to you?
And it's gone. It's all gone.
Listen closely as we now return to Master Your Finances with Kurt Baker of Certified Wealth Management and Investment.
Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances. I am here with Ted Simpson, and we're talking about business planning and I guess assessing your own personality, which is great. So once I understand what I want to do, I'm trying to find my North Star. So how do I get my vision? 'Cause you talked about that a while ago. So how do I get this like this vision? Because we really want to work on our business instead of in the business, right? And that's a common problem that almost all business owners have. We constantly get dragged into the day-to-day of what we're doing. But you really need to step back. I like the fact you go off-site. You know, this is kind of almost like a mini retreat because you're not in your actual office. And so so how do I set up the vision, and what's that process for us?
So yeah, that's right on the front end of the process, you know,
Right.
and so there's two sides of this. When I talk about vision, there's your personal vision, like what you want as a person, and then there's the business version, right? And the visual that I always put for people is like, think of a bicycle, right? Your personal vision is the front wheel. That's who you are. That's what you want out of life. And your business, if I'm a business owner, that vision's the back wheel. That's
Right.
supposed to be following it. What happens in life? People start their business like you just explained so well. Like, right, all of a sudden it's going, and I got in it for a reason, and then all of a sudden, like everything else is happening, right? So how do you knock people out of that? Well, first is like tapping into like what you really want in life, you know. And there's a couple different areas. You know, I won't get into everything, but there's these elements of like fulfillment in life, you know, like there's this element of family, you know, there's an element of friends, there's an element of like your health, there's an element of like your personal development, there's an element of community, there's part of it is like how much I make in life, you know, how much do I bring into the family, you know. So when we sit down with business owners, we look at these things, you know, and you can visualize this on a wheel, you know, it's visually on a wheel, right?
Okay.
And so the physical exercises, I go around the wheel with them, you know, like I'm like, okay, let's talk about like health and well-being, your health, right? How you doing on that? 1 to 10, like where do you stand on that, you know? And then they'll kind of give a ranking, and then I'll ask curious questions like what would a 10 be like for you? Just curious, what would that be? What would that look like for you, right? Because it needs to be coming to your front of your brain, right?
Yep,
You want to bring it out there, you know?
Yep.
And we'll go around the wheel that way, right? And it'll take some time, and then I'll say, all right, what kind of when we were talking about these things, what was like, where did you feel it? You know, like sometimes when you certain things, like let's just say for me right now, like one of those things on the wheel would be exiting the business. Like that would be like, how am I going to retire? What am I going to do that? For me, like that's not like really my thing right now. So all right, I'll go right past that, you know. But for some, I'll go through for everybody. Like, what are the most important things, you know? And what I'm always trying to dig into is like who do you want to be, right? Like when you walk into a room, like what do you want people to say about you when you leave? Like what is that? Is this person like a really cool family person? Is this person a really great visionary? Is this person like somebody that gives back a lot? Is this somebody that just a really good worker? So that's who you are. And I always start there, like you know. Then the second thing is what do you want to do? Like this is 5 years from now. How do you want to be spending your time? Do you want to be spending in your office? Like some do, most don't. Like, do you want to be spending it with your family? Like think about it. Do you want to be like traveling? Do you want to be reading? Do you want to be talking to people? Do you want to be taking classes? Those type of things. And then the final thing is, what do you want to have? Usually everybody wants to talk about what they want to have. Like, I want to have a beach house. I want to have a car. Like my point is, okay, that's great. Be specific though. Be where is this? Like, let's visualize this thing. Like, so when you're having a bad day, that becomes your visual, right? You know, and so.
That's where you see like the sailboat sitting on the side of the desk or whatever.
Right. I mean, like,
I'm gonna buy that sailboat next year.
No, really. And that's what you want. You know, that when you're having that day, you know, we all have them. That's
absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So that's kind of like the visioning exercise. And then what we'll do there, right? Like now you and I kind of went through it. Let's just pretend.
Right.
Now you share that with your board, because remember, your board is an intimate group of folks that you're sharing things with, right? So, I didn't mention that. Obviously, there's a non-disclosure agreement to be on a board.
I would hope so.
Because you're talking about these things. But you're talking about numbers. You're talking about what you want to be. So the board really gets to know you. And I'll tell you why it's important. Like, there'll be a case where somebody has an opportunity. Like, everybody has opportunities, right? Like, wow, I can do this. And that will be something they'll bring to the board. And the board will know your vision. They'll know about you. And they'll say, hey, Kurtis, you know what? I don't understand. When you told us about what you want in 5 years, it included being with your family and traveling and reading. What it didn't include is working more.
Right.
Like what it didn't include was making another $1 million. It didn't include that. So I just want to be like clear. Is this like Mr. Right Now, or is this something that like really fits into your plan? So that's the power of having a vision, sharing it with your board, and keeping the board keeping you on track, right? All of us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the thing I thought about here was like, what do you want to be known for? Like, what do people want to, like, when they think of you, and like, who are you? What are you all about, right? And so one thing that flashed through my brain is what you're doing. I remember they had this exercise where they'd make kids like people sit down and like write their own obituary, like when you're gone. What do you want people to say about you, like when you're gone? What did you do? How did you do it? And things like that. And it sounds like a silly exercise, but if you really think about it, it's actually pretty powerful, right? Because most people, when you hear the story all the time, when they're on their deathbeds, do they ever say, I wish I'd spent more time at work? That's pretty rare, right? And so successful business owners, sometimes they get a little bit too successful. Sometimes they have to say, I'm not saying make less money. I'm just saying they get too stuck in the business, where they need to say, well, I'm doing all this because I want to give all this stuff to my family. You hear that all the time, right? I want to be able to provide, take care of them. Well, you're already past that point, right? You're already doing really well. Now maybe it's time to think about, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I need to rethink about what I'm doing. I've far exceeded that. I'm taking care of my family aspect. Yeah. Now maybe back off and really think about, what is it really you want to do with your life? I mean, how do you want to enjoy your life, right? Spend it with the family. Usually it's spend more time with your family, right? Or your kids, your grandkids, your dog, whatever it is, right? Just get out there or travel. I hear that people want to travel more, right? So take the time off, do that. And you can still operate the business. That's the beauty, is nowadays with technology, and you have people that are assigned these tasks, you can still operate the business at a very high successful level. I just remember reading an article once saying the least stressful job of a Fortune 500 company is the CEO, because they know how to delegate out all the stress. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, it actually, if you think about it, because they're the visionary, right? They're the ones that get out and talk about where the company's going. Any of the actual tasks, they have somebody managing that, right? They have lots of people managing that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I'm like, that actually makes a little bit of sense. Now, I've never been a CEO of Fortune 500 companies, so I don't know if that's really true or not, but it actually makes a little bit of sense, right? If you're able to delegate it off into good processes, then they handle the actual administrator of the business. So anyway, those are the things that kind of came to my mind when you're kind of describing all this, because this is really important stuff.
It's one of the things I'll ask them, like two things, like people always say, like, can you leave the business for 2 weeks and it still runs, like that's fine. But for me, it's like, will it grow? Like will it thrive without you? Like, to me, that's the litmus test. Right. If you're really organized that way. So yeah, that's an excellent point, Kurtis.
So what are some steps they take once they get this vision? What do I do next? Now I have to.
Yeah. So now I got my vision, right? I got that. Now what's important? I develop my business vision, right?
Okay.
So some have it, most don't, and that's more of like. Something you're proud of, something your stakeholders would be proud of. What is the folks that you sell to? That's something that you would share with them. That's something you would share with your employees. And it's what you're all about. It's what your business is all about. What it delivers at the end of the day. What you're known for, right? Then the next step, just because I'll just accelerate this, right? Like you got that. Then to me, it's your values, right? Like, because your values really become your brand. Like I have a small business, and it's a small group that are doing it. So your values are just so important. We work with them on that, what is it? What is it that's important to them? And that would be something that when folks tell me they're grumpy with an employee, I'm like, well, are you guys all aligned on your values? Like, do you really understand that? And is it meaningful? So those values then they obviously become, that's your culture and that's your brand, you know?
Right.
So then we work on that part of it. Like, okay, let's look at your business. What makes you different? Like really, your smaller business, what makes you different? Let's really think about this. What makes you stand out? Who are the people that you want to know you? Who are the people that you want to like you? Who are the people that are trying to take business away from you? And why do you stand out? What makes you different? You know? So that, and then we get into this, like, what's important, right? What's important to you as a business, right? What are the key things that you got to accomplish? Let's cut through all the clutter, you know, your critical success factors, you know, like that's the things, if you jump out of an airplane, right? Like the chute's got open. So then we get into that, right? That
would be beneficial.
And then we get right into the planning.
Right.
Kurtis, then it's business planning, you know, and it's business planning and then tools to make sure that you're on track.
That's just awesome, man. You've taken through a lot of stuff here. So it's the alternative board, right? So how do they connect if they're interested in more about this? Just, is there a website or something?
Yeah, it's really easy.
Just search.
The alternative. It's tab. it's tab at midnewjersey.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Ted. That's been awesome. We learned a lot about how to get your vision, put your plan together, work on your business instead of in your business, and you take those steps. And I have to advocate. I love coaching, and I love, like, this is like where it's at, is my personal opinion after being in business for almost 40 years. So thank you, Ted. I appreciate you spending a little time with us. You're listening to Master Your Finance. Have a great day.
That's all for today's episode of Master Your Finances. Miss Kurt Baker's biggest money managing tip, or even a full episode? Head on over to masteryourfinances.us or 1077thebronx.com/masteryourfinances. Look for Master Your Finances on Anchor, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time, only on 1077 The Bronx.